It's the grandson of Right Thought. Welcome to the School of Marvelous Light. In order to enter the kingdom of heaven, one must be born again. Simple enough, right? You have to be born again in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. So for those members of the little flock who have been born again, it should be no surprise the things that I'm about to say to you today. Those who have not been born again are not going to understand what I'm saying. To reference Yahusha, he said, the old wineskin cannot receive the new wine. You see what I'm saying to you? In order to receive the new wine, you have to become a new wine skin. See that there? So one would be wise to understand what is a wine skin. Well, what does the scripture specifically say about wine? What kind of effect does wine have on a man? What does the scripture say? It says it makes his heart merry. So it affects his heart. See that there? Makes his heart merry. There's a deeper meaning to that other than just sipping some wine and feeling good. You see what I mean? There's a deeper meaning to what wine means. Or else Christ wouldn't have said, you can't pour new wine into old wine skin. Using that as an analogy for something higher. So we know that the wine, the pure wine from the pure vine, I am the true vine, is pure thoughts. You see that there? And pure thoughts make your feelings merry. They make you feel good. They make you happy. Truly and eternally happy. You see that there? But the old wine were the old thoughts that made you feel those old feelings that you used to feel. Depression, sadness, sickness, mental anguish, whatever words you guys want to use to describe it. You understand what I'm saying, though. You hear that today, little flock? So we see clearly that there are two wineskins and two types of wine. Now we've said what the wine is, which are the new pure thoughts. You see that? Versus the old thoughts. Well, where do thoughts go? They go into your heart. You see what I mean about the wine and the heart now, the connection? To the Hebraic mind, to the Israel mind, heart, thought, mind is all one thing. That's why it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, you think in your mind, but you also feel in your heart, and these two are one. Those are the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel. Thought and feeling. You see that? And they are supposed to be one, but it's hard to make them one when they are contrary to one another. You see? Bad thoughts make bad feelings. Vanity thoughts make vanity feelings. Empty thoughts make empty feelings. You see what I'm saying? True thoughts make true feelings. You see that there? Pure thoughts make pure feelings. And so we see that there's a born again reference that Christ was saying. And a man Nicodemus thought that physically meant to go back into your mother's womb. So you see how the new wine was going into an old wineskin? And he bursted, which means he did not understand. He could not contain it, in other words, what he had heard. Wait a minute, man, got to go back into his mother's womb again? No. If you're a leader of Israel, then you should know these things. That's what Christ said. So that you can properly lead the children of Israel. You see? So you little flock, you members that have been born again, will understand these next things that I'm about to say. When you're in the womb, what is the womb like? It's dark, for one. That's the main thing we want y'all to focus on, little flock. It's dark in the womb. That's the first world that you were born into. You were alive when you were in there. Well, so it is with this world. When you were born into this world, you were born into darkness. Just like the womb, see? Now, when you're in darkness, you can't tell what things are because you can't see anything, nor can you properly hear anything. So you're in ignorance, in other words. Do you understand that there, little flock? You're in the world of ignorance, darkness. So you don't know what anything is. You see that? Now, is anyone else in there with you? No, it's just you there in the womb. Now, we know that there are cases where there are twins. There are two nations in thy womb. But in most cases, no, it's just you in there. So then if it's just you, then it's all about you. Me. I. You see? Because that's all you know that exists. So then compare it to the world that you grew up in, and you'll see that it's going to connect like Legos, isn't it? What you mean, grandson? Well, the world you grew up in, it was all about you. It was all about I. It was all about me, what I could get for myself, what I could gain for myself, how I could elevate and go higher, how I could have more. That's the world you were born into. Well, so it is with the womb, because there's no one else in there to compete with. And even if there were, you wouldn't be able to see them clearly. Y'all hear that today, little flock? Isn't it true? Isn't it the truth? Okay, so what else about that environment do you notice? Well, how do you eat? You eat from what's called an umbilical cord. Now, you have no say in what's going to be flowing through that umbilical cord, do you? No, you don't. You have no bearing on what's put there, do you? Nope. Because someone else is going to put some food in there and then it's going to go through to you. Is that correct? That's correct. Y'all know what I'm about to do. Y'all know what I'm about to do. Wonderful. Wonderful. So your diet, you can't see the food that's going into the cord, but it's going into the cord and going into your body. Against your will. It's just happening. So it is with the ignorant world you came out of. See? You didn't know that there was fluoride in the water, so you just turned the faucet on as a kid and got to guzzling. You didn't know. See? What the world gave you, you thought was good. Same thing with the womb. You don't know any different. It's going into your body outside of your control. Same thing with the world you grew into. Isn't it true, little flock? But what happens when you are born? We'll just jump ahead. What happens when you're born? Well, slowly but surely, you can see. And you notice that there are others. Now, when you notice that there are others, you get a new law. And what is that law? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. See, when you were in the womb, you didn't need that law because there were no others to do anything with. But when you were born again, now you could see that there were others because you're no longer in that I, me state of being all alone in a bubble. Whoo, can y'all hear that today or what? Can you hear that today or what? So now you can see. Now you can decide what you want to eat for yourself as you've grown. You see that there? But let's start at the beginning of being born. Speaking of eating, when the baby is born, the first thing the baby partakes of is a thing called colostrum. It comes from the mother's breast. It's not the breast milk that the baby drinks. It's something that the mother gives the baby when the baby's born. And it activates the digestive system of that baby. and you'll see some brown, mucky stuff come out when that baby uses the bathroom at first. You see? Won't have any bad smell to it or anything. It'll just be some sticky, mucky stuff. Well, the colostrum helps that occur so that the baby can prepare itself to receive new food. So just as Christ said, you must be a new wineskin in order to receive the new wine. Well, you're a baby in the womb. You will never drink breast milk. You don't drink breast milk until you have come out of the womb and drunk the colostrum, and then you start to drink the breast milk. The colostrum prepares you for the new diet. Well, so it is with you when you come into the truth. When you're born again, you get a new diet because you have a renewed what, guys? See, the answer to that question is the true rebirthing that's going on. In other words, a renewed mind is the new child that's born. Your mind has been renewed. So that answers Nicodemus's question. No, you don't go back into your mother's womb again, but it's like that because you have to die again and be born. So if you die, then whatever you knew previous to your death is forgotten, isn't it? Because you're now a new creation. So a new is a blank slate. So then whatever you thought you knew is different now. Well, the same thing for that baby that came out of that womb. He thought breathing was one thing. He found out breathing was something else. That's how deep it is. Even breathing is different. Well, so it is with you, little flock, or else Abba wouldn't have showed you that. Through your child being born. He showed you that so you can see what happens to you when you're reborn. That same process takes place in you. Everything you thought was something is no longer that. You thought darkness was what was normal. Nope. Light is what's normal. So you must be called out of that darkness into his marvelous light so that you can see things for what they truly are. I know when you were in the old world, it was all about you, my, and me. I understand that. But now you're in the new world that has a new commandment that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love each other as I have loved you. Behold, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Selflessly, giving up myself for you. Do that for each other. Wait a minute. I got to run out in front of a train to save somebody? I got to stand in front of some bullets getting sprayed to save somebody? No. It means stop focusing on me, I, and have compassion to your neighbors. Consider them, because in the new world, you take no thought for your life. You're born again. Now, what happens when you're born? I told you, when you come into the light, what happens? You come into the bosom of your father and your mother. This is ideal. This is the way God made it. And when you come into their bosom, they provide every need that you have. You literally don't take thought. So then doesn't it match what Yahusha told you when you come to him? I know you've been heavy laden. I know you've been stressed out chasing after things. I know you have been. You're heavy laden. You're bogged down. You're overworked. I know that. Now I'm going to give you rest. Take no thought for what you'll eat, drink, or wear. Don't think about that. Matter of fact, take no thought for your life. Take no thought, because your father knows what you need before you ask. Well, that's what happens to you when you're born. You're seeing pictures of yourself at 1, 2, 3 years old with clothes on that you didn't put on, with a clean diaper that you didn't put on, with a hairstyle that you did not cut into your hair, with a name that you did not give yourself. Look at all of this stuff that happens to you when you're born into the light. Same thing with Yahusha. He gave you a new name. Is that not what's written? Because you're now his child. You've been adopted out of the world, put to death, resurrected in Christ, in truth, and a new creature with a new name and a new lifestyle, new type of diet, new type of existence. That's simple. So then it's not strange when you try to go back to the world and you say, oh my God, these fiery trials are trying me. Think it not strange concerning the fiery trials that are to try you, to test you, to see if you have faith enough to know that you've been born again. Do you believe what Yahusha has done for you? Because if you do, then what? Then what? You won't be double-minded. You won't be second guessing and you won't be doubting. You'll be faithful. And that's what he wants, because that's what he was saying. Oh, ye of little faith, shall the Son of Man find faith on the earth? You notice that, guys? Y'all ain't got no faith? You don't know what has happened to you? You don't see what's happening? Men going along living their life, Yahushua says, follow me. They left their nets. Why does it say that? Why does it say they left their nets? How come it doesn't just say, they heard Yahushua say, come follow me, and then they followed him? How come it says that they got up from their table or left their net? Why does it make sure to let you know that they left a particular occupation? Because they were born again out of that old my occupation of working for me. Now I work for my neighbors. He made me fisher of men. You see? To catch men, to bring men in out of water into the air. Or in other words, out of ignorance and darkness, see, out into the light. That's what I do now. You see, that's the labor I work in. He prepared me for that labor by making me catch fish. Some days you catch many, some days you catch few. Some days it's a hard job, some days it's an easy job. Sometimes it's stormy on the sea, sometimes it's calm on the sea. All of those things prepared me for how it is when I become a fisher of men. You see that there? Because that's what it really is. In the darkness, it's like I was a fisherman all along, but I was doing it ignorantly. So I was fishing for fish. When he said fisherman, I didn't know he meant men. But I was born again with a renewed mind and understood what true fishing is. Now I know what my true bread is. Now I know what my true diet is. What did they say to Yahusha? Eat something, master. Eat something. What did he say? My meat and my drink is what? To do the will of he who sent me. That's what makes me feel full. You see, when you're doing what you love to do, you forget about yourself. You forget about eating. You forget about drinking. You even forget about using the bathroom. Matter of fact, using the bathroom usually reminds you that you are. You hear what I'm saying to you? I'll give you an example. I make music, correct? Now, there are times when I'm very inspired to make a particular song, or I hear something in my head and I want to get it done. Well, when I start, let's just say that's early in the morning. Sometime it may be late at night before I've stopped working on that project. Whether it's done or not is not important. But I may be taking a break or may be done for the day. But the fact is, while I was doing it, I did not eat. I did not leave that room. I did not drink. I didn't buy anything or sell anything because I was engulfed in what I was doing. I was in flow, as they say, where you forget that you are. Now you're one with being. Because you don't have an independent mindset of the spirit when you're in the spirit like that, see? And that feeds you. You realize you're eating in that moment. It inspires you, as we say. Inspire means to give life to. That's why you eat, to give life to the body. You see that there? But what gives life to the soul? What gives life to the spirit? Do you see that today, guys? The carnal mind is enmity against God. So that mind of being in the womb is fighting against the truth. Of course it would be, because it can't see anything. So it can't know anything. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. See? See? Because they're crucifying Christ. In other words, saying, get out of our world. See? Get out of our world. We like the world of slavery, living in bondage and ignorance. We have no king over us but Caesar. See? So get on out of here and go to your own world. You sit in and you ain't of this world no way. So go back to your world. Let's kill him. Let's get him out of here. You see? Not realizing he came to save. He came to save that which was lost in the sauce of the darkness of ignorance, thinking that they're connected to that umbilical cord still. No, you've been set free. Aren't you? When you're cut loose from that umbilical cord, aren't you set free? Now you can finally start to move about. While you were connected to that cord, you couldn't move very much. You were stuck in a situation that you couldn't get out of until it came a time that you outgrew it. Now let's focus on that little point right there, little flock, before we finish this message. There came a time when you outgrew your environment, and when you outgrew it, what happened? It spewed you out of it. It could no longer contain you. So it is with the world. What do you think it means when it says Lot was vexed with the filthy conversation of those people who were around him? That's what it means. You can no longer sit around in there anymore. I can't sit around in the world of ignorance and darkness anymore. I have to be thrust out into a new. You see, just like Abraham said, he had to leave and go not knowing where he went, but he was thrust out because he was changed. That's why he was given a new name. That's why. Simon's name was Simon. How come Yahushua don't call him Simon? But a few times he does. But how come he calls him Kepha? How come he calls him Peter? Because he's been translated. That's why. He's been translated. And when you get translated, you're unsure at first. It's just like when you're a baby changed into this world. You're going to walk, but it takes time, and you're unsure when you first start walking. You're going to swim, but it takes time, and you're unsure when you first start swimming. You're going to jet ski, but the first time you do it, you're nervous. You're going to roller skate, but the first time you do it, you better have some knee pads and some elbow pads on. You're going to ride a bike, but the first time you better have a helmet on your head, and you better have your daddy holding you with your training wheels on. Can you hear what that all means spiritual? So it is with you who are translated into the new mind out of the carnal mind. The carnal mind obviously was fear. I just proved it to you. That's why I said, could you hear what I was saying? How did I prove it? By saying that when you first get here, you're scared to walk. You're scared to swim. You're scared of the vacuum cleaner when it come on. You're scared of the radio when it comes blasting on. You're scared of everything. Now let's see how the word says it. Perfect love casts out fear. So when you're translated out of the world of fear and into the world of perfect love, you grow unto your perfection, which means the fear in you slowly dissipates and goes away. And when it goes away, perfect love has now entered, and now you have a new mind. And what kind of mind do you have? You have what the scripture calls the mind of Christ, because that's the Son of God. The mind of Christ is always available to every person. That's what it means when it says you've been adopted and you've been given grace to become the sons of El. See? Through Christ. See what I'm saying to you? Because that's the door, how you get in. It's Christ. There's no other way. You have to do what he do. That's what that really means. You have to do what he told you to do. To be not a hearer only of what he's told you, but to be a doer of it. Take no thought. Forgive. Always. Just constantly forgive. Because if you do that, guess what your Father will do for you? Now, what that got to do with somebody else? That's what I want to know. See, when you've been translated, you're scared to forgive. And you're scared to forgive because you think that person got away with their iniquity toward you. Then that means that you don't trust Abba. You have no faith in Abba, who is a rewarder. Doesn't mean good just good. It means good and bad. He's going to reward you according to your works. So if somebody mistreated you, then you don't need to feel bad thinking they got away with anything, because Abba is a rewarder. Simple as that. I saw it. Abba, you see that person just did that to me? Yep, I saw it. Well, Abba, hopefully, only through you, they'll get themselves straight. So hopefully you'll straighten them out. But if it's not your will that be the case, then that has nothing to do with me. You see what I'm saying to you, little flock? Perfect love comes in, pushes all the fear out that has you handicapped from doing the things that you're meant to do. You see what I mean? The little baby bird sitting up there in the nest, He sits there and he gets fed by worms and things by his mother and his father or whoever. The parent birds, they come and they feed him in his nest. But eventually he's going to get too big for the nest. And what happens when he gets too big? They push him out. Now, when he's falling out of that nest, he's scared. But he better learn how to fly or he'll die. You were meant to fly, not to sit in this nest for your entire life. That's not what you were made for. You were made to soar. Now, the first time you do it, you're going to fall and hit the ground, and you may get nervous and you may get scared. You may even see some critter coming over there and maybe try to snatch you up. That means you better get up there flying. But I don't know how to fly yet. How you going to learn? By doing it. All right, then. So it's time to do. Or die, as they say. Do or die. And that's the way it is with you, little flock. That's why he's requiring you to have faith. And he's saying, stop lacking faith, guys. Stop being fearful. Be of good cheer. Be not afraid. How many times did he have to say this? Well, if he's saying this to the same people, which is Israel, then that tells you Israel's disposition, which is very fearful when they come into the light. It's very simple. Very fearful when you come into the light because you're unique and different, little flock. That's why you're nervous when you step into the light, because you look different. It's just the way that it is. You take all these people on the earth and you take children from each nation and you put them in a classroom. Now, they've never seen a Negro child before ever, but they're all looking at each other and they're noticing the differences. They're like, wow, okay, yeah. You got this kind of eyes, you got this color, hair, and they're pointing out all the differences in each other. But then, all of a sudden, in walks a Negro with an afro. So all the children are going to notice something unique about that Negro child immediately, his hair. Now, if you don't perfectly love your hair, then you will fear when they look at you and think, oh my God, I'm so different. They probably think I'm ugly. I'm using that as an example. But the point still stands. No, it actually makes you unique and cool and awesome and beautiful. That's actually what it does. Do you know the truth? Do you have faith that that's the truth? But look how they're pointing at me. Look how they're looking at me. Look at what they're calling me. They're calling me a nigger. They're calling me a jigaboo. They're calling me nappy-headed. They're calling me ugly. They're calling me darky. They're calling me spook. You're going to believe them? You're going to believe them, or you're going to believe me? The same voice that was speaking to you when you were in the world of darkness. Listen to the tone of my voice, my sheep. Don't you hear my voice? Don't you know it? See, because when you're in the womb, your father still talks to you, doesn't he? See how beautiful this is and easy to understand? Your father still talks to you while you're in the womb. You just can't see his face. You can't see him. Nor can you make his voice out perfectly. But you can hear the tone of it. You hear the cadence. And as a baby in the womb, you start to pick up on certain nuances that only he gives, the way he laughs. And you start to recognize him. And then when you come out the womb and you see him, now you know who was talking to you the whole time you were in there. So then you follow him because you recognize his voice. Is it any different than what Yahusha said? No, it's not. See how that goes? See how it goes? You as the little flock have to accept this. Stop looking back to the womb, wishing you could be in there, wishing you could fit in there. You can't fit in there anymore. You can't. You've outgrown the womb, man. And now you're living in a new environment. So you got to accept your new environment. You see how that's going? Same with you. A man going to do the labor for Yahushua, he says if he puts his hand to the plow and look back, he ain't fit for the kingdom. It's the same thing we're describing here. If you come out the womb and look back to try to go back in the womb, then you're not fit for being outside of the womb. You're scared. You see that? But the faithful ones, the ones that know the voice and all they do is listen to the voice. I know my Father, so what does my Father tell me to do? What does my Father tell me it is? Now watch this. I'll give you examples of what I mean. Let's say you grew up in school and you were taught that Negroes were slaves, and that was all you were taught. And your father comes to you and says, I know what the school told you, son, but actually you're an Israelite. And that's why you went into slavery. Your history doesn't start at slavery. It starts with God. I make a covenant with this people. Abba told us don't ever refrain from telling our children about our history. That's what he said. Tell them about what I did for you in Egypt. And always tell it. Remember it. Remember the things I've done for this people. So you tell your son that. Then that means he has a choice to believe his father or to believe the world. Isn't it easy to understand that? He has a choice to believe one or the other. Now, which one benefits him? Listening to the world or his father? Well, the world says he's a slave. There was no reason why this happened other than the world says, well, you guys were selling each other into slavery. That's why it happened. Okay. So the world says that's why you went into slavery. And then they don't have any explanation as to what's going to happen after the slavery. But your father has all those answers. He tells you why you went into slavery. He tells you what will keep you out of slavery. He tells you what will deliver from slavery. He tells you what the end is going to happen after the slavery, that you will come out bearing great substance and come into your own land. He told you all of that. The world didn't tell you that, did they? The world didn't say that to the Negro. I'm using them as an example, guys. So don't get all in your feelings about what I'm saying. Just listen. Y'all understand that today? You have to know your father's truth. Then when you know his truth, then you buffer yourself from all of the lies. You put that same thing that was around you in the womb around you out here in the world. That keeps you unspotted from the world. You're in the world, but not of it. See that there? You see it? You got that globe around you so that if anything hits you, it won't knock your rings out of you. You understand? Same goes here. It's his truth. The shield. You see that? What is the shield? It's faith. That's what the shield, that the armor sitting up there for you, that's what the shield represents. It represents your faith. So faith is a defense weapon. Did you know it? So then if you have little faith, do you have a big defense or a weak defense? So then what did Yahushua say? O ye of little faith. Oh, a faithless and perverse generation. How long will I suffer you? See what it's about? You see what it's about? If people they're just silly, man. They're ignorant. They don't be knowing. And so sometimes you just got to forgive ignorance and wink at it and keep it moving like Abba did. Because, for instance, I heard a lady say the other day, maybe today, maybe yesterday, one of them days, she said, I have much faith, the size of a mustard seed. And I just laughed inside of myself because I said, that's not much faith, lady. You just heard that. And now you're showing your ignorance by that statement. You just heard somebody say that. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, and you compute it that means a lot. It doesn't. What Yahushua is saying is, if you have a little bit of faith, the size of a mustard seed, then it will do great works for you. So imagine if you had a lot. That's what he's actually saying. So you see why you just got to forgive ignorance and keep it moving? You're not of that world. You've been renewed. You've been renewed about what everything is, even breathing. And if you've been renewed about breathing, then what is everything else? It's all been transformed because the mind is. And if the mind has been transformed, then so has the man. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. So, fear makes you rely on an outside source for safety, doesn't it? Yes. Fear causes you to look outside of yourself for safety, doesn't it? If you are afraid, then that means you don't feel safe within yourself. So then, what would correct that defect? Calling them scary? Calling them a coward? Would that fix the defect? Or I am brave. Does that fix the defect? Now, if God's name is I am, which one of these examples would you say is taking his name in vain? I am brave or I am scared? Which example is taking his name in vain? Now, what did the world tell you taking God's name in vain was? I can guarantee you they didn't tell you that that's what it was. I can guarantee you that. Because if the whole wide world knew that, then they'd all talk about it and they'd all do it. They'd correct what they think and feel. But what does the world go along doing? Trying to correct what someone else thinks and feels. That's why people argue. If you knew that you cannot change this other person's thoughts and feelings, only they can, then all you would do is suggest and then keep it moving. You wouldn't argue because you're not trying to force. Love seeks not its own. So how can you say you love somebody and then argue about your point, making your position felt? I'll give you an example. Some men came to Yahushua and they was going to try him. And they said, answer us this question. And his response was, well, I'll answer your question if you answer mine. They could not answer his question, so then he did not answer theirs. See how he didn't argue? See how he didn't fuss and fight and get back and forth with these people? Nope. He doesn't do that. So neither should you. Well, when you're not renewed, all you do is argue. Ain't that what the people in the darkness do? You know what's silliness about fussing and fighting? You know the silliness of it? It's half the time, at the end of the fight, when you go back and you ask the person what they were arguing about, they don't know. A person could tell a story about somebody that they're with and say, we were fighting, and this, that, and the other. And then you say, what were y'all fighting about? I don't even remember. But at that time, it was so damn important to you, wasn't it? Enough for you to scream and holler and fight and all this other shit. It was that important to you then. But all of a sudden, now you don't remember. So then we call that vanity. Because the renewed mind knows that all is vanity. That's another way that you can tell. A person that knows that all is vanity will act like it. When things go out of their life, you won't see them panic. When people switch up on them, you won't see them panic. Matter of fact, you'll see them sleeping. Because they've been renewed. Y'all understand this message today? It ain't even hard to understand. All I'm doing is bringing clarity to it so that you can understand your station. Saying, oh yeah, this is why when I try to blend in or try to get back in with the world, or in other words, back in the womb, I'm uncomfortable because you don't fit. This old saying, I don't fit in. See, you do not fit in that womb anymore. You are not of that world. You are of the world that followeth it. Scriptures are perfect. They're perfect. The world of ignorance is dying, and the world of truth is being birthed next, because the world of ignorance is the end of the world. But the world of truth is the world that followeth the world of ignorance. So you have to decide what world are you a part of now. Look at yourself and tell. Do I have a new name? Or do I have the same name I was born with? Look at yourself and see. Do I live in ignorance or do I now live in truth? Look in yourself and see. And that'll tell you whether you're born again or not. Because like I said, there will be many that profess to be born again, though they are not. They profess to be. So look within yourself today, little flock. Understand the changes that have been made into you, that have been made inside of you. And that you are no longer that old man, but you are the transformed man with the mind of Christ now that leads you in all truth. Silawam, Mr. Allah.